Good afternoon, everybody. Glad you're here. And to people who are watching online, thank you for being with us today. So as you just heard, I'm Amy Claiborne. I'm the president, CEO, and co-founder of Families Flourish. My background, real quick, is I was involved in creating affordable housing opportunities here in our community in various ways for 30 years, and saw during that time that it's critical. You know, we have a housing crisis. We know that there's not enough housing for people, all incomes, but especially those at the lower end of the scale. And that when we provide affordable housing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it moves people up economically. And so when I left Homeport end of 2015, began on a journey, and I'll tell you about that in a few minutes, to think about housing and how we can use it for economic mobility. So what you're going to hear today is a very unique new program, and it's unique in the country. So it's really exciting to see the impact of what we're doing. You've got the... So you heard that our name is now Families Flourish. It was moved to Prosper. And so one would wonder, well, why, for an organization that's not very old, would we be doing a name change? And what we learned, you'll hear about the pilot, we did a pilot with 10 families, was that the move is critical. People need to live in a safe neighborhood where the kids can go out and play, where there's access to opportunity. And Worthington is a fabulous example of living in a neighborhood, a community with lots of opportunities. But what we found through the evaluation with Ohio State University is that our secret sauce is the required monthly programs and coaching. And so what happens in the program, it starts with the move, right? But it's the result. And so we want our name to help people think about the result. And the result is families are flourishing. And so that name now helps people think about, well, what do we want in our community? We want families to flourish, and we want children to have access to all of the wonderful opportunities of our region. So that's why we did the name change. So what we believe, talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. Have you heard of something similar to that before? Raise your hands. A few have. So we had a board retreat. One of our board members, Brendan Foley, former CFO of Red Roof Inns, he made this statement as we were talking about the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? And it is so true that we see generations of children who have so much possibility, but they're not in a place that they're going to be able to become who they're meant to be. And that line comes from Kasim. So you'll meet him a little more in a little bit. So we want everybody to be able to use their talents, and that's what we do with our program. So our mission is to create a more equitable community for families by empowering them to achieve and succeed through a holistic support initiative. And you'll hear about this holistic support initiative in just a minute. So our founding story. End of 2015, early 2016, as I was leaving Homeport, Steve Heiser, I've known him, he's a commercial realtor, big heart, and he said to me, "What are you going to do for the kids?" I was like, well, that's a good question. And he said, they're living in areas where, as he put it, and it's, we don't like to talk about it, not all schools are equal. And there's a lot of schools that are troubled. It's not the teachers, it's when you have the concentrated poverty, because that's not, it's created by redlining. And so the kids don't have access to opportunities. The parents are not living in areas where they have access to the jobs that can become career paths. And so how can we think differently? So we met with representatives from Casto, if you've heard of Casto Builders Communities, and the owners of Oakwood Properties, which is the Weiler and Kelly families, met with them, and they immediately said, yes, we'll open our doors. And here they are, landlords have, at that time, about 15,000 units throughout the region. And they said they'd open their doors to our families, and you'll hear how we work with them. And we realized, again, it's not enough just to have the housing opportunity. So we worked with Ohio State University to design a coaching program. That's where Dr. Rachel Cleek comes in. Talked to her. Somebody said to me, you have to evaluate the program. My background is I'm a lawyer. I had no idea what she was talking about. And so I called her up and said, what are people talking about? And she said, well, I love what you're doing. It's her background is studying what happens when people have access to a housing choice voucher, Section 8, you may know of it by that term. And so she came on board, and then Jason Reese, her colleague at Ohio State, came on board with us as the project evaluator. So what we did is we created a pilot. The pilot was supposed to be 3 years, 10 families. It was 4 years because of the pandemic. And you'll hear, I'm not going to spoil it, you'll hear in a little bit about the results of the pilot. But what we realized during the process is that the families were doing really well and that we were going to continue as a program. And so now we're our own, not 501c3. We have a board. We are now on to bringing families in twice a year in groups of 16. So if all goes well with the fundraising, by, first quarter of next year, we should be hitting 100 families. And that's a magic number for the evaluation, but we'll keep going as a program, admitting more families. So as we talk about the beginning part of our history and our steering committee, I just want to recognize that Suzanne Cole is in the audience. Suzanne has been a longtime volunteer. She was on our steering committee. She's on committees now, and a huge help in the organization. So thank you, Suzanne, for being here today. So we're supposed to have a video now? So I'm going to turn this over to Kasim, and we'll have a video because it's, you can hear from us, but hearing from our families is extra special. So Kasim?
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kasim Sindai Haruka. I am the development coordinator for Families Flourish. Excuse me. I would love for you all to first hear from the families because their voice really matters and it's their story. This is about their lives. And I think it would make more sense for you guys to hear what their experiences are or were before they joined the program and what their experiences are now while they're in the program.
Right before I got accepted to move to Prosper, I remember it being summer. My kids were away. I look out my front window and I see police cars. I see caution tape. I see markers on the ground. I see an abandoned car. It's stuff that you only see on TV. Someone was shot. Someone was shot and killed right in front of my window, the same way my kids walk to and from school every single day. Even now I get emotional thinking about it. Every day it was just fear and just anxiety.
I have 2 young adults and a kindergartner. Over 3 years ago, we were homeless, living with family.
What I recall about where we used to live is how it wasn't unusual to hear sirens and sometimes gunshots We didn't go outside at all, didn't play with neighbor kids.
School is always full of fighting and problems.
I'm excited about the end of Move to Prosper. Financially, I'm fine. I've been able to almost double my earnings since coming into this program. I'm financially stable. I have a savings. I've rebuilt my credit. I was able to improve my credit by over 100 points just on my own.
I've started a budget now, and I never really understood the importance of it. I mean, I heard about budgeting, but until I actually sat down and wrote it out on a piece of paper, I was really not aware of how much things were costing and how much money I did or did not have.
I do have two boys. Their ages are 13 and 9. They both have seen a dramatic change in their academics. I will say that my oldest son benefited the most from our move. They've grown in reading, they've grown in writing. Prior to moving to our new neighborhood, he was really pushed around and labeled as a bad kid. In our new neighborhood, they figured out the problem and they protected him and showed him how to deal with any and all problems that he may encounter, and they did it with love.
Some changes I've noticed in my big sister. You've gotten into a lot more stuff now. You have choir, you have the flaggy thingy. There's like 5 more that I cannot name for the life of me. Honestly, you're more outgoing.
I just want to continue to see my kids happy. You two happy. You two with your learning, with your sports activities, with your dancing, your brother as well, with his education, with his basketball. I just want to continue to make sure we okay.
I think our little brother, he has more opportunities than I had growing up because he can get those opportunities earlier growing up in this environment instead of the environment we grew up in.
I feel empowered. I've been exposed to so many opportunities that before I wouldn't have had that opportunity to do so. I found a voice, I found a new lifestyle, I found a new neighborhood, I found a new family. I feel unstoppable, to be honest.
So those families were part of the pilot program that started in 2018 under OSU, and they graduated in 2022. And during that year, we're able to bring in the first group after the pilot program. And a couple of updates. So they were able, the families after the program ended, they were able to raise their income by $17,000 or average of 58%. And last year, we had 2 high school graduates. One was accepted at the University of Cincinnati, and the other one was accepted at Ohio State. When we changed our name from Move to Prosper to Families Flourish last fall, we created 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps are supposed to elaborate as to what we do as an organization. And the first P is propel. Families Flourish empower families to address their needs over a 3-year period, reversing historical barriers by fostering greater inclusivity, equality, opportunity, and housing and access to housing, education, and family wellness. But then the question arises, how do we empower families? What do we do? There are several key things that we focus on. There's several key tools we provide to the families, and one of those is individual coaching. So each family that joins the program is provided with a one-on-one coach that they meet with at least once a month. Each family is required to attend monthly programs and monthly workshops. And each family is provided with partial rental support in a higher resource neighborhood. So they're provided with $500 every month for the first 18 months, and it goes to $400 for the remainder 18 months. And we believe this is a 2-generational model, right? So a mom get to see her kids be successful, grow, and the kids get to see their mom become successful and grow. But one of our participants, one of our graduates actually, Sherilyn, would disagree because she believes that a lot of her family members, they get to see her growth. So it's not just her baby that gets to see her grow and become successful, but her cousins get to see her become successful. They get to see her become a better mom because of her experience within the program. Her mom also gets to see her become a better mom and a better person. So she believes it's more than two-generational model. So we can argue with her, we can argue with her on that. The second P is promote. So Families Flourish helps communities embrace and create housing that is accessible for all. Parents are provided tools to improve life outcomes for themselves and their children through requisite programs. So the idea is to help create accessible community for people that would not otherwise be able to get into these communities, right? So if you're not making a certain amount of money, you can live in a certain area. So Families Flourish helps to promote the accessibility of people, a certain group of people to live in certain areas. So these are the requirements or criteria of what we're looking for in terms of families. So we're looking for a single or joint parent household. And it's not a requirement specifically if you're a single household, but the single moms have been exclusive, are the groups that we have exclusively worked with so far. So we do allow single dads, we do allow joint parent households. And we accept 1 to 3 Medicaid eligible children under the age of 13. So the reason why it's under the age of 13 is because the research came out of Harvard led by Rod Shetty. The research showed that there's all sort of upside life outcomes for kids who move to higher resource neighborhoods under the age of 13. The other requirement is people who are currently experiencing housing insecurity. There are families who are experiencing housing insecurity, and that's what those are the kind of families we're looking for. And half of our 47 families in the program right now actually have experienced housing insecurities. There are some who there are people who came straight from homelessness. There are people who are living in a car or shelter before they joined the program. And now I would love to invite Amy back.
Thank you, Kasim. Quick update. As of this morning, I was meeting with our senior program director. We have 64 families in the program. The kickoff is April 23rd, and we are hoping to admit 2 more families before then, so we'll have 66 families. And we have a lot of volunteers that help with the interviews and the process of admitting applicants. I saw a picture being taken of the information about the criteria on the back of the brochure that some of you have, but we have more at the table. We have that criteria, so you have that. So what does, why do we have the criteria we have? You saw on the prior slide that the income range for people to join the program, it's very low income. That wording is a HUD, Housing and Urban Development term. And their incomes are between 30 and 55% of area median income based on family size. So it's $26,000 to $54,000. The average income, though, coming into the program is $31,000. Can you imagine having 1 to 3 children and living on $31,000 a year? So what this slide is telling us, and it's thank you to the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio, if you're earning 50% of area median income for a family of one single person, your income would be $34,000 a year. That's hourly $16.71. So your total housing cost, if you're only using 30% of your income toward housing cost, that's $992. So subtract from that $200 for monthly utilities. That's finding an apartment for $790. You can't find a decent apartment for that. And that's 1 bedroom, right? If this is for a single person. So for a 2-bedroom, it's obviously more. The types of jobs that people have when they're low-wage workers, cooks, cashiers, wait staff, people that we interact with every day. Home health care, child care workers, bus drivers, substitute teachers. Actually, some school districts bring in teachers at, this amount, so it's not just substitutes. And at a little bit higher end of this is carpenters or truck drivers. So it gives you a sense of people we need in our community, people that we work with and interact with every day. But in so many places, they have their jobs, but they can't go home to a home in their community every night where they're working. And so you can think about, well, where do jobs go home at night? And why not have it as part of the community? So what we're doing is a stealth way of bringing them in, because zoning has prohibited the creation of affordable housing in many parts of our region. So we use the word stealth because we provide rental support to enable access to communities that have closed their doors to affordable housing. So the median rental rate in Columbus, this is from 2021. So this is outdated. Cannot get like a chart like this that's 2024. So again, rent burden means you're paying no more than 30% of your income for all your housing costs, rent and utilities. 2021, the median rental rate was $1,100. Today, it's between $1,400, $1,700, or $1,200 and $1,700 for a two-bedroom apartment. So it's gone up quite a bit. So what we do is we work with the private landlord community. They work with us voluntarily. We provide, they get their market rate rents. We provide rental support, $500 a month for 18 months, then it drops down to $400 a month for 18 months. The participants in our program pay the rest. They sign the rental agreement. We have a separate agreement with the landlord so that they're agreeing to a couple of things. One, they will accept two checks, right? Two forms of payment, because that's not the norm. They agree to not increase the rent more than one time a year. And they will only increase it by up to 3%. So, what we found is we want to help people learn to budget, learn to plan, but still be able to learn to budget in those rental increases, because the landlords initially said, well, let's not raise the rent at all during the 3 years. That would be a nice thing to do. I'm like, well, you're right. That would be very nice, but it's not real. And what that means at the end of the program is when they go to market rate, there's a big jump. And so we use the period of their 3 years of coaching, a lot of focus on financial literacy and learning to budget for those rent increases and plan ahead. And the goal is that at the end of 3 years, if a family wanted to stay, that they could do that. And we put it that way because some families may not want that. They may want to move somewhere else. They may need more space. They may be ready for home ownership, which the end of the pilot, a number of families had wanted to buy homes, but that was after COVID and housing prices had just skyrocketed. And so we had a couple of very disappointed participants, not in the program, but in that they couldn't buy a home at that point. But we have participants now talking about that as a goal. So we want to honor their dreams. So our current landlords have, housing available all over the region. And the participants, through coaching, determine where it's going to be best for them to live. So their job is in Hilliard. Why would you be looking in Gahanna for an apartment. And maybe there's a reason, maybe there's family, but we want it to be a very thoughtful decision. Where will it be best? And then it's dependent on where units are available, because this represents a lot of units, but the housing market is so tight that units may not be available. We're looking for 2-bedroom apartments, 3 bedrooms. We actually have 1 or 2 families in those units right now because they have 3 kids. They're much more expensive, so the family has to already have a higher income to be able to afford that. On the right, you'll see our list of current participating landlords. As you leave today's program, if you know of any landlords who have multifamily properties, we'd love introductions. They don't take cold calls from us. And we need a lot more landlords to be able to have 100 families in the program at any one time, with 33 coming in, 33 graduating, and potentially staying where they are. So we're always on the lookout for more. The housing has to be healthy, needs to be in a safe neighborhood, and it's called higher opportunity areas. That's from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency opportunity mapping. And that means that they look at, it's like 18 different variables, but schools, job opportunities, transportation, grocery stores, proximity to parks, recreation, green space. So now I will turn this back over to Kasim.
Thank you.
Right, the clicker.
Thank you, Amy. So there are 4 key pillars in our program, right? That's housing, mobility, and stability, financial capability, education and career, health and wellness. So these are 4 key things that the families get to work with their coaches on, right? So I moved into a new environment. How do I maintain this lifestyle? What do I need to do? What do I not need to do? Financial capability. How do I budget? How do I save? If I made extra money, how much should I spend on groceries? Education and career goals. Hey, I think I'm in a really good position right now where I can look for a better paying job. I'm thinking of going back to school because I think I'm in a good position where I can focus and do these things. Health and wellness. Our families come in with with different backgrounds. Some have stress. Some are stressful because of the lifestyle that they had, right? Some had to worry about their kids getting shot because it was not safe to walk to school. Some had to worry about because they're working 2-3 jobs. Now they're in a position where their kids can walk to school because it's safer. They're living in safer communities. They feel better because now they don't have to work 2-3 jobs because they have that partial rental support provided for them. That means they can focus and spend their time to look for better paying jobs. And now that reduces the amount of stress level and they don't have to worry too much. So I'd love to ask a quick question. How many of us have engaged in some kind of coaching in here? Yeah. And I'll speak from my own experience. It's been very helpful. I came in here in 2016 from Tanzania. It was a whole different experience for me, not knowing a lot of things, not knowing how to budget, not knowing how to apply for college, and having that person there with me to show me the way, to show me how to do things properly, really made a big difference. And a lot of these families are not able to attain these services because some of these services are expensive. You have to pay for it, and a lot of lower income families will not be able to attain them. So with Families Flourish, the families, when they join the program, they're able to get all these services throughout the 3-year period. Now they have a one-on-one coach that they can work with and focus on whatever they want to focus on. Now, I would love to share another video with you guys from one of our moms, Jamaica, talking about her experience and her son's experience before they joined and after they joined the program.
My name is Jamaica Humphreys. I'm 38 years old. Miss Jamie Phillips at New Direction, she did my resume, and then about 2 months later, she sent me an email, and she says, "This sounds perfect for you and your family." And it was a Moves to Prosper qualification letter. The attraction for me was not so much affordable housing, because I have already did that and had that. Affordable housing is not safe housing. It's not access to a better school. It's not access to better healthcare. So that is where I wish to go at this point, and to give Jaden what he needs. I know how to seek out resources and do programs and things like that, but a lot of them are just only pouring into me. And yes, it allows me to pour into Jaden, but not as much as a different environment would. Jaden has built his own support team at his school. He loves going to school. He loves his teacher. He loves his counselor. He has gone to his counselor with things that I tried to talk to him about, and he wouldn't. So I was like, that's very good that he's communicating. He's growing. He loves school. His test scores have improved tremendously. I haven't had to pull Jaden down from gunshots in our own home. We've got to walk to school. Jaden's been going to school for a long time now, and we've never walked to school. I did a drive-through from my old house to my new house, and it was city buses, and it was people, and it was just very chaotic. And soon as I hit a certain point, it started being trees. Lots of trees and stop signs and crosswalks and signs of people crossing and buildings, and it was life on the drive, but the life became more, but it became more calmer. I'm just trying to put action behind my dreams. These are my dreams, and in order for them to be accomplished, I have to be a part. I have to play a role in the dream, right? I know that Move to Prosper will change my family situation, and I'm very optimistic about me and Jaden's future in the Move to Prosper program.
That was Jamaica talking about her story and her journey from where she was and where she is right now. But we do have more reflections on some of the mom who joined us in 2022, and they're talking about their experiences with their coaches or just in general being in the program. We have one that says, the first one, red one, "A year in, I already have a better job, less stress, more money applying to grad school." We have another one that says, "My son increased his test scores and is building positive relationship with teachers." We have one that says, "My coach listens very well, allows me to speak freely, solve my own problems, create my own goals." We have one that says, "When I feel stuck, my coach listens and encourages me." And the last one says, "My child is helping with younger kids, tutoring younger kids at the library." And I think that speaks highly of what we're doing, because, again, speaking from my own experience, I think sometimes I felt a little bit behind because I didn't have people to speak to me, people to tell me hey, you can do this. Not necessarily giving me a handout, it was a handout. I'm gonna push you a little bit, but I know that you're capable of doing all these other things. So I think that makes a big, big difference. Yeah. And I would love to invite Amy back.
Thank you. So Jamaica, couple things. She's now finishing up her college education. So she's very excited to be able to graduate before the program ends. So she and Jaden are doing really well. And she used the phrase, affordable housing is not safe housing. And I just want to give some context to that. We've gotten some flack about that phrase from other nonprofits. And for her experience, it's true. And a lot of housing that's lower cost, lower rental rates, has not been maintained. and it is substandard housing. But housing that's been developed by affordable housing developers, and I told you before that I was with Homeport, they provide very high quality housing, and the housing itself is safe because people do get sick from their homes, and you'll hear about that in a minute. It's also the neighborhood, and what she's referring to as well is the neighborhood. And so I wanted that context so you don't walk out thinking, oh, affordable housing's not safe. Well, the housing might, but the neighborhood may not be. So our final P, the first was propel, the second was promote, now it's prosper. Our families are prospering. The results from the pilot, 100-point increase in credit scores. The health and wellness improvements by both the children, the youth, and the parents, significant changes. And the kids are at grade level in their schools. One thing that surprised all of us early on was the number of children that were actually gifted, but the parents didn't know. They weren't tested, and if they were, the school didn't communicate, and they didn't have the programs. And the kids from the pilot came from suburban schools, charter schools, some private schools, and Columbus City. So I, again, want a context here that we're talking about a lot of different school systems that kids were having issues with and not being able to get the supports that they needed. So our final P is about prospering and enabling families to, at the end of the program, access housing that fits their needs. So the main economic impact is that the adults had an income increase on average of $17,000, 58%. So on average, at that time, it was $29,000 to $47,000 a year, or $46,000 a year. For the group of 10, that total income increase was $150,000, which we were providing at that time $400 a month rental support, or $5,000 a year. That equals the amount of rental support. Now you have people who are able to pay taxes and contribute in other ways to the community. And actually, one other little update, we just are completing our evaluation through Ohio State University of the first year for our first two groups that came in after the pilot. 9 of 16 families in group 1 have increased their incomes. We've seen credit score increases. And one of the pilot moms was telling me recently that she just graduated or completed a certification for some kind of tech certificate so that she'll be able to work at Intel. And in the meantime, she'll be able to work at Honda and other places and significantly increase her income again. So 100% of the graduates are able to rent without rental support. 8 of the 9 who graduated, 1 did not. She left early. She was ready to fly on her own wings. That was her words. And the other 9, 8 of them stayed where they were, and the moms signed a 1-year lease. The last I heard, all but 1 is still where they had moved to. This summer, it'll be 2 years after they left the program, we're going to check in with them and get an update. So we've talked about health and physical and mental health improvements. We found in the pilot that there were a lot of visits to emergency rooms prior to the families entering the program, and that piqued the interest of the project evaluator, Dr. Jason Reese. And so he asked again in the interviews after 1 year, and saw that there were 20 fewer emergency room visits per year, resulting in a $30,000 savings in healthcare savings, and that would be Medicaid. Main reason for the reduction was asthma. And if you're living in a house with mold, and many of the families talked about that, you'll have asthma or other upper respiratory issues. So you've heard why we created Families Flourish. So you've heard about what we do and how we impact our families, but let's look about how this impacts the region. How many people have heard social determinants of health? Okay, a few. Social determinants of health talks about health care only impacts 20% of your health. It's everything else that's contributing to people's good health or poor health outcomes. And the types of things that impact health, 40% are socioeconomic factors. Where you live, your education, your job, community safety. Physical environment, so again, where you live is 10%. Health behaviors is 30%. In our monthly programs, so for 3 years, families have signed up to go to monthly programs. About 12 of them are about health and wellness, and we talk about, because actually it's very connected to financial well-being. It's, how do you shop? What are you buying? What kinds of food? And how do you have healthy food, and then how do you cook it? And diet and exercise, encouraging people, now that you're living in a safe neighborhood, are you going out for walks? How do you take advantage of your new neighborhood? And so we have to talk about it, because if you don't know, you don't know. Just like with school, if you don't know how to interact with your children's teachers, you don't know what questions to ask, so that's what we cover. So we're impacting 80% of those social determinants of health by all the different aspects of our program. So this is also information thanks to the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio. Stable housing impacts our whole region. We've been talking through our program about how it impacts a family, but it impacts the region. And this is what happens, you could read this yourselves, if we had more stable, affordable housing. This says 5.5 years of additional life expectancy for people. The opportunity mapping from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, and then a lot of other data for our community, there's about a 20-year lifespan difference based on your zip code and where you live. That's huge. And so while we have to revitalize all parts of our community, all parts of every neighborhood, it's not happening, and it takes a very long time if it's successful. And if it's successful in helping the people who live there, because oftentimes people move. And so it's important that we provide both kinds of opportunities, revitalizing neighborhoods and focusing as we are on families and enabling them to flourish. So the last part of the why is social justice. Housing accessibility falls largely on women of color and women single-parent households. Richard Kohlenberg, who used to be with the Century Foundation, wrote a book. It's called Excluded, and our program is in there. And he was here last September and spoke about, it was November, spoke about how what we're doing is catapulting people over the invisible walls of segregation. We're enabling people to enter gated communities, that's a term we'll call higher resourced neighborhoods, so that families have that opportunity to benefit from the community. So we'll hear now from to Shayla. She is in the program currently, and she talks about why equity matters. And I'll turn this back over to Kasim.
I promise this is the last video. So we'll go ahead and hear from Tashaila.
For me, honestly, the disruption of generational patterns will stop with me, and also with my daughter. So when I think about the future, I think about generational wealth. And I'm not just talking about in monetary value, but I'm talking about generational wisdom, generational love, generational respect, generational kindness, all of it. Yes. We want all of it. I mean, they deserve that. Our children definitely deserve that. So I'm very grateful. For me,
I love that Tashaila spoke about generational pattern. And again, going back to the two-generational model, right? This is more than just, again, I kind of like, I believe what Sherlyn told us. It's more than a two-generational model, because everybody's seeing the growth that they see your growth, they see what you're becoming, right? And people are able to see how you're raising your kid. Now they want to raise their kids the way you're raising your kids. You're breaking that generational pattern, not just for your future generation, but for your current family. Your mom, your cousins, your sisters, they're all seeing the growth that you're making. They're seeing that you're becoming a great parent. So I really love to Shayla that spoke about that. And generational pattern is not just, it's more than this, just generational happiness, generational finance. It can be anything and everything. And so I love that she really talked about that. So what can I do? That's the big question, right? What can you guys do? There are several key things that you guys in the room can do today or in the future. One is pledge your financial support. As a fundraiser, I would really, really encourage you to do that. Because the key thing is we do not bring in families unless we have raised the funds for them. So we raise the funds first, then we bring in the groups of families. The second would be to host a fundraising event. You could invite your friends or families to come and learn about what we do. And hopefully they can invite their friends and their families, colleagues to come and learn about what we do, so we can spread the word that way. The third would be to invite us to community groups. And this way we can speak to different audience, right? People who are interested in being part of the program, or people who would love to be donors. Then volunteer. We have a lot of events throughout the year that you could volunteer, you could be a part of, and then we have introduction to landlords. As Amy mentioned earlier, we're still looking for landlords, because as we grow, our needs for units also increase, right? So we need more units because we're bringing in more families. And introduce us to a coach, right? Each group that comes in, usually we bring in 5 to 6 coaches. So the more coaches we have, the easier it is for us to be able to distribute those to the families that are coming in. And last is spread the word in any way you can, whether it's to call a friend and tell a friend about us, right? Or host a house party, and so on. And I think that's we've reached the end of this presentation, and it's time for Q&A.
So thank you very much, and a very special thank you to Kim and Wyatt, and to the McConnell Arts Center, the Lifelong Learning Institute initiative. We're very pleased to be here today. Your mission is to build pathways to experience the joy and wonder of the arts. And our mission is to build pathways to experience joy and wonder of community. So, and you have to have arts to have a full community. So thank you for letting us be here today. We'll open it up to questions, and depending on how long they go, we'll take a little break. But Any questions? Yes?
I wonder how prospective families find out about you, and how are you advertising that you exist in certain neighborhoods or?
So thank you. The question is, how do we find prospective participants, and how do we advertise? You want me to do it? You want to do it? You can do it? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. So we have partnered with over 100 other nonprofits, right? So people can refer to us. So if people are looking for houses or experiencing housing insecurities, they're usually sent to us. Also, word of mouth. A lot of people hear us through other people, right? From participants, for example, one of her graduates, Sherilyn, she has a cousin who is in the program right now, and so through that way, they're able to hear about us. And for right now, we did open our applications for the group that's coming in this month, and we're looking for 18 families, but we had over 400 applications. And so yeah.
So one thing new that we're doing is working on a way to partner with the faith community. You know, people go and they talk to their religious leaders about their family circumstances, or they just know, like, oh, this family would benefit from the program. So we're looking at ways that they can help spread the word about the applications being open. And again, on the back of the brochure, it has the criteria, but we are getting 400 to 500 applications per group. And not everybody's eligible. They don't all meet the criteria, but people hear about us every week. We're getting emails. I need housing. I want to be in the program. Yes.
What is your criteria?
Do you have the brochure? So the criteria is 1 to 3 children. So it's a family of 4. And that's important because we have 2-bedroom apartments, and landlords only allow 2 people per bedroom. It's open to parents. They have to be at least 18 years old and jointly raising the children. So for the pilot, it was only single moms. And then after the pilot, at some point we opened it up. It could be a single dad, but it could be a couple. But the couple has to be parenting the children. And so right now we've been working through, well, what does that really mean? And how does that apply to the program? We recently said that both parents have to either be in school or working, so that they're both then using the program to enable themselves to advance in their life. So one of the parents can just be in school, but they have to actually be in school, or they need to be working. The children are eligible for Medicaid. That's sort of a given at this income range. They're experiencing housing insecurity in lower resource parts of central Ohio. And again, we've had people living in Dublin, and they really just want the rental support so they could stay in Dublin, and that's not the purpose. The kids are already going to higher performing schools. So they're housing insecure. That one hasn't been difficult when you look at the insecurity, with half the participants being definitionally homeless before coming into the program. So they're working, they're just not earning enough. We added Central Ohio because we were getting a lot of applicants from Dayton. And I don't know how word spread, and people said, oh, well, we'll move to Columbus to get in this program. And but then they're moving here without a job. So, because they have to be working to have to meet the income requirements. We actually are working with a group right now in the Dayton area, Miami Valley. They are exploring replicating our model in their community. The last criteria is the household income, $26,800 to $54,000 based on family size. Yes.
When you have 400 applicants for this very small number, how do you
me to take? What do you want to? So that's a great question. The question is, if you have 400 to 500 applicants and 18 slots or 16 slots, how do we decide who to take? We have a very, we have a process. The first step is, and we've got a software to determine, do people meet this basic criteria that I just explained? The people who pass that step, our team then checks in with those applicants to make sure that they did the income correctly. So, are they counting all of their income and added up right? Because not everybody does. So then we've got a pool of people. The next step is an interview. And they are interviewed by one of our team members and a volunteer. And it's about an hour or so interview. We have a list of questions, a matrix that gets completed and scored to see, are they looking for rental support? And really that's why they want in the program. Or are they looking to actually actively participate in the coaching and programs? We want that motivation. And that's important, that people are thinking about where they want to be, not specifically, but they want something better for themselves and their children. So if they complete the interview and our team is satisfied, the next step is there's a background check. And we have two landlords that have been with us from the beginning. They actually send in the information that the applicant provides to us with their Social Security number. They run a background check as if they were going to be renting an apartment, so we get credit score and a criminal background check and a look at their finances, their debts. And then the landlords determine would they take them or not, or maybe. We look at it. If we all say yes, then it moves on to final determination of acceptance. The landlord said no. We look at it and say, well, maybe. Then there's a conversation. And we'll discuss, well, why not? Is this an exception they can make? Is it time to give somebody a break for something that happened 10 years ago? And we have a good conversation about it. Sometimes the result is yes, sometimes it's no. And then we move on. And so if they get through all those steps in the process, then people are admitted into the program. But what they need to do next, they being the applicants, is participate in 2 workshops. One is financial literacy, so they start the budgeting process. And the second is landlord-tenant rights and responsibilities. We haven't had anybody sort of not get past that, but if they don't show up for those workshops, it means that they're not going to show up for the programs. So again, it's steps in the process to make sure that we're getting people who are going to be committed, because we are investing, we being the community that supports us financially, a lot in each family, because it's that investment that's resulting in kids not just graduating from high school, but going on to college, parents getting better jobs, being healthier. It's a wonderful investment, but we want to, increase our odds that the people who do come into the program are ready for it. Next question, thank you.
And I will tell you, this program is
So, Suzanne, thank you. Let me repeat for people who may not have heard who are listening online. So, during the pandemic, 6 of the 10 families, could have been more, had hourly reductions or lost their jobs. And before the pandemic hit, and obviously we didn't know, we've helped the participants in their financial budgeting to have an emergency savings. And all but 1 or 2 had emergency savings. So when the pandemic hit, we asked, how much do you have? And people had at least 2 months of rent, and nobody missed a rent payment during the pandemic. So there was job loss. And so there was a lot of support that we provided to help people be stable and deal with the issues of changes. Most of the participants in the pilot did change jobs. One of them helped her kind of work her way up with promotions and job changes to get a higher income. We take that for granted. One of the roles of the coach is to help people figure that piece out. So thank you for sharing that, Suzanne. So the other question is, how much is government support? Until July of last year, the government support we had received was $75,000 from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency during the pilot to help fund part of the cost of the evaluation. Then they love what we're doing. They then gave us, as we went to the next stage of becoming a program, another $75,000 toward rental support. That covered part of the rental support for the first year families in the program. Last June 30th, when the governor had the new budget for 2 years put on his desk, we were in the budget for a 2-year period of $1 million. And so we're really excited, and that $1 million was a recognition of the impact we're making, and to help us with expanding so that other communities throughout the state could begin to plan for a replication. So we've got one community we're working with, and just like the pilot, you sort of learn as you're going and figure out what you need to do as you're going. That's what we're doing with the expansion. And so we're working on other forms of government support because this needs to be a public-private partnership with the government helping to support what we're doing because we're helping families move forward and paying the rental support. But all of the funds initially for the program were privately funded. And most of that is individuals, families, family foundations. And I think now without the government support, it's about 20% is corporate. The big donors are not the corporations, it's individuals and families. Other questions? Yes. So that's a good question. The question is, are we cherry picking the participants and only finding ones that will succeed? The answer is no. There has to be a certain amount of income, which means that people have already sort of figured out that you have to have a job in life. Not everybody has, or not everybody's able. But to pay their share of the rent, that's important. What we've realized is that we have a social services manager, so senior program director who runs the program, and then working with her is a social service manager. That person helps connect people to resources. People have a lot of needs, and there are many needs that we cannot support. People need supportive housing. It's a type of housing that we don't have enough of in our community. We're on site. There's supports right there to help people stay on track taking their medications, stay on track in being sober if that's one of their issues. I mean, there's a lot of different types of needs in the community. So not everybody will complete our program. And we understand that we're not, obviously, as we're investing, we want the best odds. But if that's what cherry picking is, then most nonprofits do that because you can only serve so many people. So that was the pilot where it was single parent families. The data will tell you that when you're, so the question was, why do we limit it to single parent families? And for the pilot, we did that. Now it's a single mom, a single dad, or a couple where they're both parenting the children. We are very driven in everything we do by data. And most children who are live in low-wage households are living with a single parent, and it's headed by a mom. And by and large, I think that's like 80 or 90% of the children who are, in low-wage households. It's because it's a single mom. And so that drove that initial decision-making. And we opened it up because there are dads that are single dads. They have their custody of the kids and have the, similar struggles. But again, the data will show that they tend to be higher income because they're in jobs that pay more. There's not a lot of women in construction, and that's a good paying job. And with the couples this low of wages, there's not a lot of couples at that low wage, but we've opened it up to provide that opportunity. Other questions from that? If you do, we can come back. Another question? Yes?
Could you give an example of what types of volunteer opportunities are available? And is there a contact person listed on your website who heads up your volunteer services?
Oh, I love that question. Question is, describe the volunteer opportunities and who do we contact? Do you want to take that?
Sure. I'll start with the second one. You can reach out to me, and I can hand you my business card after. You can reach out to me or Shiloh. And we do have different events throughout the year. Well, we have the house parties, we have house parties. So this is when we go to people invite us to their homes, and they invite their friends and families. So we're looking for people who might be willing to help us with the setup. We have our annual fundraising event. We're always looking for people to help us with the setup again, helping with the guests. And we also have, committees. So we have volunteers in our committees and people who are for like marketing committee, people who are have enough experience to share some ideas with us on that. So yeah.
Another example of a need for volunteers, what the first thing we do when people want to volunteer is ask them, how do you like to volunteer? And, but on April 23rd, we have the kickoff for Group 4, our next 18 families. And we need some adults who are willing to come and be with the families, be with the children mainly. And so if you are interested or maybe know people who like to interact with little kids, the kids are all mainly 10 and under, we have a lot of babies, to just come and help out, let us know, because we just found out that the group that normally provides volunteers probably can't do it this time. We partner with religious institutions. So we've got some churches that have opened their doors and we can go there and have programs. And when they're able to provide the help with the families, that's fabulous. So if you, with a religious group that would want to do that, let us know. We have other volunteers that, again, it's one-offs. A woman who's a retired accountant, CPA, she contacted us, and she's working with me on developing an HR handbook. So it's not the employee handbook, it's how we as an organization administer the HR functions. So, if somebody has that's not her background. But I said, well, you Google stuff and we'll figure it out together, and we are, and she's doing a fabulous job. But there's all kinds of things that we know we need, and as we work with volunteers, we plug the gaps. There's always more help needed on interviewing both for staff and for participants, applicants. So that's the first conversation. For people who are listening online, if you go to our website, www.familiesflourish.org, go to contact. You can say, I want to volunteer. It'll go to info@Families Flourish, and we get those emails every day. And people either wanting more information, wanting to volunteer, wanting to donate, wanting to do something. Other questions? Yes.
Sorry, I have a comment to my brother and then a question for you. And the comment for my brother who asked about cherry picking, what I would say is that there are many people who have the motivation and the desire to succeed, and that is a necessary component of success, but it is not sufficient. You also need access to resources. You need information that you don't have. You need a little bit of help with the rent. And those are the resources that you are providing to people who may not be in this. Actually, they're only getting up to 2/3 of median income, it seems. They may not be able to reach that little bit without that assistance. And I live in Oakland, California. I'm here visiting for the solstice. We need you in Oakland. So.
That's next. Okay, before you go on, let me repeat this for people who are listening online. And I should give you the mic. You should be up here. You're absolutely right. And thank you for telling your brother. I've got 2 brothers, so I fully understand. But they're supporting what I do. So the comment was, motivation is critical. And we can't downplay that motivation factor, but you also need resources to be able to better yourself. And those resources include the rental support, it includes the coaching, because if you don't know, you don't know. And I just have to add a quick little story of one of the moms who was raised by a grandma who was also raising like 12 children. And she had never gone to a parent-teacher conference. It was never modeled for the participant. And, she has her 2 kids, and they're having issues in school, and she didn't know what to do. And the coach, quickly figured that out and helped her understand how to work with the school. And as the mom says, they put their arms around her son with love. And he's at grade level. He's doing really well. Did she have the motivation? Yes. Would she cherry-picked? Sure. But that's only the first step. She's working hard, and the participants will say, this is hard work. And that's what they're signing up for. Okay, so now your question.
My question was actually related to that. Is there some aspect of coaching that the participants, who are all different, but is there some aspect of coaching that they find particularly impactful or powerful in changing their trajectories?
Great question. Is there some aspect to the coaching that's critical for the change to happen? So during the pilot, and now again with this evaluation, one of the questions that Dr. Reese and his colleagues keep asking is, what is most impactful about this program? Is it the rent? Is it the coaching? Is it the monthly programs? Or the relationships? We haven't talked about that piece. Can you pull it apart so we can only do 1 or 2 of those and make it less expensive, make it less rigorous? And the answer consistently has been no, you cannot pull it apart. it is all of those. Now, maybe for one participant who, it's more about the monthly programs, but it's the coaching that's the accountability piece, and the participants call their coaches their accountability partner. And so what's key in the coaching, and there's a coach behind you, thank you, is it's teaching those skills, the executive function skills of setting goals. Not everybody does that. May have the motivation, but not know how to do that. The working with people to remove the roadblocks and to not stop. It's building that resilience and that self-esteem to say, okay, I can do it. Being that cheerleader. Yes, you can do this. We don't have cheerleaders in our lives. And one thing that we take for granted is you think, well, everybody has a network and they have families, they stay in their neighborhood because there's friends nearby. That is just not true. And it just irritates me to hear people say that, because not everybody has that. And that's what the coaching and then the relationship building amongst the participants. And so we're adding more programs that will occur, most optional, some not, so that the participants are meeting each other and building relationships, a peer support, so that they have somebody to turn to and know that I'm not alone. That's been critical. And so it's all of that together. And then the coaches, they have a lot on their shoulders to understand implicit bias and poverty and what that means, and trauma-informed care, as well as holding people accountable. Yes? Thank you. So are you a realtor? Oh, no, okay. So the comment was, she loves our program, she's very impressed, and that realtors should be very supportive of this program, or realtors, multifamily landlords, because we are vetting the participants and providing a service to them. So I'm going to elaborate just a little bit. When we went into this, again, how are we different than others? We have been surveying the landlords to ask them, are they happy? How's this working for them? Because we want to show, as you're saying, that if you have a program that's wrapped around the participant, you're going to get a better tenant. And when there are issues, and we have had issues, actually a lot of issues, of people not paying the rent on time, because if you've never really had to budget and you live in a place that's substandard, you do not call if there's a problem because you are afraid you're going to get kicked out. So we're teaching people how to do that. And so we have this relationship so that the landlord could tell us, hey, somebody didn't pay their rent or whatever, and then we work with the participant. And by year 2, almost everybody's totally on track. And it's not everybody. I think in year 1, maybe half the people at some point have problems, and that's what we're there for. So yes, we are surveying the landlords because they're finding that they're saving between $800 and $2,000 a year per participant because they don't have the turnover, and that turnover costs them money. And so we are telling this story to landlords to try to get us more landlords, and to city councils. Now, the best people to talk to city council members about why this matters is all of you. And we need people to be saying, hey, this is important. We want this in our community. We want our children to grow up in a diverse environment and have access to economically different children, children of different races and cultures, because that is how we build a better community. And it could be self-serving. That's how you're going to build better employees in the future. So those are messages. Thank you. One last question. Okay, yes?
Do the coaches stay with the family for their entire program, or do they switch coaches? Or
Oh, that's a great question. The question is, do the coaches stay with the family for the entire program? And so when we look for new landlords, and we have another, not landlord coach, we have another flyer that's out on the table with what we look for coaches. We ask the coaches to make a 3-year commitment. And we are asking the families to make a 3-year commitment to the program, and we want the coaches to do the same. And we do, the first in-person program is speed dating or speed networking. And the coaches get to meet all the participants meet the coaches, and then they rate, like, I'd like this one, 1, 2, or 3. And we try to honor the participant's desired coach to the extent that we can. And, some participants want a coach that also has children, or, is entrepreneurial, or looks like them, or whatever. There's just a click that, has happened. And everybody's different. So we have coaches from a variety of backgrounds. Now, coaching happens, maybe the match isn't quite right, maybe life circumstances of the coach has changed and can no longer coach. So then we work with making changes that meet the needs of both the other coaches and the participants. And so far it's working. We have a diverse coaching team, and right now 1 man, soon to be probably 2 men who are coaching, and different backgrounds. Some are life coaches, some are therapists, some are social workers, others are in the corporate world and have coached groups. One of the coaches was volunteering in an organization that serves similar type of clientele participant, although theirs was human trafficking survivors. Ours, some have been, but that's not, who we're just only seeking to support. And so, we just have a variety of backgrounds. Those coaches make a commitment to attending the monthly programs with the participants and a coaching call so that they're sharing information, continuous learning, and helping each other. So, thank you so much. We're both available for additional questions. Again, a huge thank you to the McConnell Arts Center for allowing us to be here today and to allow us to tell the story. I hope this has prompted lots of ideas. Love to have your involvement in any way that meets your needs. And please tell other people about us. Just like word of mouth is how we find applicants, that's how we find friends, is by word of mouth and you telling others. So thank you again for being here.